to Zero Production Value Movie Reviews. As always, I am Eric Hoernke, and today I'm going to be discussing the 1972 film Asylum, directed by Roy Ward Baker. So I'm pretty sure not very many people have heard of this movie. It's an older British horror film from the early 1970s. It does have a few famous faces in it, including Peter Cushing, Charlotte Rampling, and Britt Ekland. More like British actors rather than American actors, obviously. It came to my attention as I saw it on a Thrillist list of best horror movies of all time. On their list, it was 45 out of 50. And sometimes I really enjoy going through these, lesser seen, underrated kind of films that just aren't on your radar at all. For all those people who are out there thinking like, there's no content, where's all my content? And I'm like, man, if you just look back in history, there's probably a bazillion movies that probably deserve watching that you have never seen. And it would be worth your time, especially with all the time we have, to go maybe look some of these up. I'm not quite sure this film belongs on a best list. I probably wouldn't put it on my top 50, although it certainly has potential. I think the execution is a bit spotty, and it has like some difficult effects for 1972, difficult special effects that it's trying to pull off, which just make it seem dated, and sometimes the effects are downright laughable. Also, you have that British austerity and kind of rigid stiffness that can kind of come off a bit, not as well to American audiences. Definitely some creepy ideas that I haven't seen. Well, some I've seen, some I haven't. But I think it's a great template for a remake. I don't understand why people always want to go remake really famous movies that are classics or whatnot. Rather, go find a movie that has potential that maybe couldn't have been made as good as it could have now. You know what I mean? And this is kind of that movie where it has a lot of good ideas, and if you update it with effects, in a more Americanized script, like this could really be a good, horror movie that people are going to want to go see. So, but I don't know, who knows? This is essentially an anthology film, sort of disguised as a single entity. We get a Dr. Martin who arrives at an asylum, and he is there to see a Dr. Starr because he is looking for a job, and Dr. Starr is going to interview him. And instead of encountering Dr. Starr, he meets the wheelchair-bound Dr. Rutherford, who informs him that Dr. Starr basically went crazy, attacked him, hence him in the wheelchair, and is now an inmate of the asylum with an assumed personality. So Rutherford tells this arriving Dr. Martin, you can still have a job. Your interview is going to take the form of you go interview the residents of this asylum, and if you can detect which one is the prodigal Dr. Starr, then I guess you get the job. So this sets up essentially 4 vignettes as Martin goes to each resident and interviews them, and they each have their own kind of little horror story on how they got to be at the asylum, all with some more or less of a supernatural psychic horror element to it, quite a bit. So the first, I'm not going to go too much into the plots of each, but just as a brief discussion of each. First, and my favorite, is the first vignette. It has to do with a cheating husband who wants to basically get rid of his wife and run away with his mistress, and they have an idea basically to dispatch her, and shall we say everything just doesn't go according to plan, to say the least. In the second, there's a tailor who is making a suit out of a strange material for a mysterious patron with some mysterious requests. He gives all the specs of the suit to the guy without ever seeing the person the suit's intended for, and he can only work from midnight until dawn, and he's very adamant about that. I wonder what could be going on here. Let's just say it doesn't all end as well as the tailor would hope. I think the weakest of the four is the one that stars Charlotte Rampling as a woman under house arrest. She had been previously institutionalized, and she has an unhinged friend played by Britt Eklund. And that one was just a little bit transparent. Maybe you didn't see it in 1972, but you watch it and you know exactly what they're going for, and it's pretty predictable. And in the last, not really a vignette per se, but sort of a capstone, there's this man who creates these little dolls. To me, it became reminiscent. I always hate saying reminiscent when it's a future film, but I saw that film first. So it's reminiscent to me of like Child's Play, sort of Chucky-ish type dolls. But he makes these little dolls that he says have working brains and working physiology, and he's like, this one is me. It's going to be my brain and my internal organs and stuff in it. It's just a little bit out there. And that one leads into basically the finale / climax of the main narrative, as the Dr. Martin goes to try to tell the Rutherford character everything that's what he believes is going on. And let's say that just ends with sort of a twist, but is a pretty good twist for the early 70s for it all to come to a climax and a crashing denouement, shall we say. So this is a bit of a hidden gem. By that I mean it's interesting. I wouldn't call it great, but definitely interesting with its fair share of creeps and frights, and it's worth it for somebody looking for a deeper cut of the horror genre prior to the blood and gore and kind of straight up narratives that would take over as the 70s drew to a close and into the 80s. So with all that considered, I am going to give Asylum from 1972, directed by Roy Ward Baker, a B-. I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching my movie review. I enjoyed making it. As always, I am Eric Hoernke. That rhymes with turnkey. And this has been a production of Zero Value. Thanks for watching.